They follow the Prophet of Allah on religious matters, but then in social, political matters, secular, there's another word for it back in those days, but they didn't follow the Prophet of Allah when he commanded. He instructed them, this person is to be in charge of you. So it's a problem, and it's been there for a long time. And in order for the Imam to come back, we have to correct that understanding. There is no separation between church and state, or masjid and the Islamic State. We don't divorce Islam from the dunya that we're currently in. Islam governs me in my personal life, and also my political life and my social life. When I interact with other people, Islam is what tells me how to obey. I'll give you a kind of shocking example. You know that last Muharram coincided with the war on Gaza. Last Muharram, the war on Gaza. You know that in some Shia centers, when there was azah for Imam Hussein, there was no mention of Palestine? I'm crying for Imam Hussein. I'm crying, I'm against the oppressors. Right? I'm against the oppressors. I say, death to Yazid, I'm ready to fight. But then in the issue which is Hussein and Yazid right now, the dunya and the akhirah are completely separate. I come in the masjid, I cry, but then outside, I don't attend any protest. I don't assist. Secular. So, having hatred of this world is not to separate the two. Another one is that the concept of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar. You know that on the spiritual path, when we're trying to work on ourselves, because we say as believers, it's not enough to do simply the wajibat in my personal life. To do more than that and to work on myself and to correct myself, to rid myself of my diseases, to become more spiritual and in touch with Allah. In addition to that, I have to do what is known as Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar. I have to wade into the masses. When I see that wrong is happening, I have to stop people from doing that wrong. If I don't, if being more spiritual doesn't lead me to this, then there's something that's deadly wrong with that spiritual path. You want to hear a scary hadith? It's a scary hadith though. That's okay. This hadith says that Allah hates, Inna Allah Azza wa Jal la yubghid al-mu'min al-dha'if. Allah hates the weak mu'min, alladhi la dina lah, who has no religion. They asked the Prophet of Allah, they said, who is that weak Muslim who has no deen? He said, it's the mu'min who when he sees munkar, when he sees things that are wrong, he doesn't object. He doesn't do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar. He watches sin happen around him. He can stop it. Believers are making mistakes in front of him. He doesn't say anything. The mu'min who is weak and has no deen. So the Islamic path, being a spiritual soldier of the 12th Imam, does not mean I can abandon this and just work on myself. I go to a cave, I do tasbih. It's not that easy. The way to Allah is right through the dunya. There's no separation. More than that, it doesn't mean not working, not providing, and not enjoying the dunya. That's another one. Sometimes when I hear these hadith, I want to be ascetic, I want to not be attached to the dunya, I want to get away from the dunya. The idea of working and providing for my family, that I don't take as seriously as I should. I'm going to say something, and it's going to be a little scary for our brothers, but it's good for our sisters and brothers to hear. You know that as a Muslim man, you're supposed to provide for your family. Ayat of Quran. This is Surah 4, and it's verse number 34. Ar-rijal qawamuna ala nisa. Men are the maintainers of women. Bima faddala ba'dahum ala ba'. With the advantage that Allah has given some of them over others. There's some areas that Allah has made men stronger at, and therefore given them the responsibility of providing. وَبِمَا أَنفَقُوا, and because of that which they spend, مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ, that which they spend out of their wealth. فَالصَّالِحَاتِ قَانِتَاتِ, the righteous women, the salihat, they are obedient. You see, Islam is the natural order of the dunya, the way the world is supposed to run. Islamically, Muslim men are supposed to provide for their families. We don't forbid women from working, Islamic. Women can go and they can work and they can get careers and jobs as long as it doesn't conflict with their other duties. But we are radically different from the West in that we say, even if we're going to encourage you to work, first we'll say, well, what are your duties? At home, family first. Your children. I don't sacrifice everything for my career. I'm not successful until I go out and conquer the world and have a career and PhD. No, we say that, first your duty is at home as a mother. And this is different in the West. It's difficult to stand up for the values of Islam. First at home with your children. And your husband. Your husband is your first priority. Take care of him. Obey him. Work with him. Strong family. Don't have your children go up in a relationship where they're worried about whether father and mother will make it. More than that though, in Islam, again, we're old school. We encourage men to be strong men. In the West, men have been emasculated. Men are feeble and weak. Just look at the movies. Raymond. Huh? Or any other, that's a television show. Look at any other movie and see the role of men and how men interact with women and how these values are given to us in our minds. Sometimes, as a man, we feel bad for actually being in charge of the family. I'll give you an example. You know that you're supposed to provide for your wife. Your wife doesn't have to work. But sometimes you'll find Muslim men who tell their wives, well, you have to bring your 40% to the table. Islamically? One of the reasons that couples have problems and issues is because the woman feels obligated to work. Some of the women want to work and want to have a job, but they don't need to feel obligated to put their share of money. That's their money. If you allow her, first of all, you're in charge of the family, and it's not about being a tyrant, being Saddam Hussein when you come home. No. The hadith say that Sayyidul Qawm Khadimuhum, the leader of a group of people is a servant of those people. But you are a leader, you are in charge. The buck does stop with you, and the women should also embrace this role. It's not because we think women are weak. We believe women are strong. A scary hadith. Inshallah, the sisters won't listen to this hadith. But the hadith is this. It says that, the Prophet of Allah talking, he says that I have seen no group who is able to rob a man of his intellect like women. And women know this is true. They know men are simple. They know this. So it's not that women are not powerful. They can run the household if they do the things properly. But what we're saying is, although you have power, although you can be strong, although you can order your husband around, don't. Submit to the natural order. Allow your husband to be the leader in the house. The children look up to dad. Don't succumb to the West. I'm independent. I make my own decisions. No, submit. And then find out that you will have your husband wrapped around your finger. If you do it the right way. So being a Muslim man, being someone who hates the dunya, doesn't mean I'm not out there working and providing for my family. Yes, you are. Personal recommendation, it's not a fatwa, I'm not your mujtahid. I personally would recommend though, that live on one salary. Budget for that. Budget for one salary. If your wife makes money, she wants to be Hazrat Khadija, she gives you, then alhamdulillah. But don't budget on that. Don't bank on that. Be content to live life simply and grow slowly. The natural order. Strong men. I remember hearing once, they said that a hard man is good to find. A hard man is good. A man who believes in these values. Doesn't apologize. I'm in the West, I'm liberated, I can't say anything. No, I'm in charge. So it doesn't mean not working and not providing. And why am I giving so much emphasis? Spiritually, we find this. Those who ignore taking care of themselves in this world. They hear these hadith about abstaining from the dunya, staying away from the dunya. I don't like the dunya, I want to be... So I ignore those natural duties which Allah has placed on my shoulders. These same people come back and are more attached to the dunya than others. You're supposed to have a certain amount of the dunya. You're supposed to have it and enjoy it. So we're not talking about that. So what are we talking about when we say, Ya Ahmad, abghid ad-dunya?